you can see all 4 of you guys.
Great.
Okay.
I mean, and then I'm pretty sure the chat can see you guys too. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And right now, okay, you guys are live.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much. Thanks, Angel. Hi, Kawaii Kon. This is Dogs Bond board game. We are back. Today's panel is passion projects during a pandemic. So besides the alliteration, what I love about this topic is that passion projects they're just always important, right? It's what you love. It's doing what you love. But during a stressful time like a pandemic, it's even more important. So we have the creators and artists behind Dogs Bond board game joining us today. So I'll give them a second to introduce themselves. Alex, let's go alphabetically.
Easy. Hey, I'm Alex Liu, and I'm the game designer behind Dogs Bond, and been working on this project since 2017, and really kicked it into high gear about a year ago when I got to meet and bring onto the team Sarah and Kiki, who are with me today, and I'm excited to be here at Kawaii Kon.
Awesome. Welcome. And Kiki?
Hi, I'm Kiki, as previously mentioned. I'm the graphic designer working on Dogs Bond. I primarily do in-house stuff, so this was my first official freelance venture, which is fun and exciting. I started the project in January. It was January of this year or last year?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, January of this year. It all runs together.
Time matters anymore, yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's me.
Awesome. Welcome. And Sarah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sarah Mills. I'm the illustrator on Dogs Bond. I've been working as an illustrator for, like, what did I say yesterday, 9 years, since like 2010 or something. It's been a long time, but Dogs Bond has been one of the biggest and most fun projects that I've worked on. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Welcome,
I
guys.
told Alex early on that he was like favorite client slot, and I feel like I don't know, I can't confirm, but I feel like he's been like working extra hard to keep that prestigious title.
You got to fight for it.
Yeah.
You got to fight for it.
I mean,
just drop you to pit with my other clients. Sorry.
Knowing what I know of Alex, I think that was the right move to say that you're his favorite, or that he's your favorite. So very smart. Very smart. So welcome, everyone. We have a few questions to start us off. So kind of like yesterday, we just want this to be an open dialogue. Whatever questions or stories you guys might have about your own passion projects, please feel free to share that in the chat. I'll try and grab it as much as possible. But we do have a few questions to start us off this afternoon. So let me pick a nice, easy one and ease us into it. Okay, do you feel like with the pandemic going on that there is more or less time or motivation to pursue your passion projects? So either way, do you feel like you're more busy, you can't focus on one passion project and you just kind of bounce around, or do you feel extra motivated to just focus on one? Let's start with Alex.
Yeah. Well, if as folks get to know me, lots of ideas come into my head and many balloons. There's one cartoon that I love where it's like, oh yeah, there's an idea, grab that balloon and grab that other balloon and grab the other. Oh no, right? Like that's me. That has always been me. And so really doubling, tripling down during this kind of really stressful time of, can't go outside, can't visit with my friends. I'm in California, so we're the orange sky people. So we had to hunker down for even more reasons. So it's been really important and actually to me beneficial for my mental state and sanity to have a project that I could really sink my teeth into and work on day after day after day, because I'm progressing and we're advancing kind of a cool thing that normally I wouldn't have time for, right? Whether it's commuting to work or going into the office, like having to go get groceries, like just things that normally you would go out and like run errands for. now it's completely different in the way we do it. And while I miss, of course, interacting with all of my friends and family, like, you know, this also gives me kind of the perfect reasoning and excuse to really focus on something and advance it. And that's what we did over the last, 9 months, really. Quarantines didn't really change the way that I was operating too much, because I knew I would have to buckle down if we wanted this board game to get launched. And we did it. And so I think in the whole time, I've maybe felt 1 or 2 days of the Groundhog Day syndrome that made me feel kind of sad. But yeah, I've been very fortunate. Working on Dog Spawn has given me that, not only the passion project, but also purpose.
Awesome. And Kiki, did you want to add in anything?
Sure. I think, like Alex said, having something to work on and put your energy into during the pandemic has been very helpful. On the other hand, like having all this downtime, you would think that you would be like super productive because you don't have to go to work anymore. I don't have to do a lot of things that I used to have to do. But it's honestly kind of difficult to find motivation just because I feel like everything is exploding around me. So it's like a little bit sad. It doesn't feel like a vacation or anything. So sometimes it honestly is hard to find the motivation to work on like my art or something, for instance, when all I wanted before was time to do it, and now it's just kind of like, I don't know. But I still do it because despite sometimes trying to get over a hump to get yourself to do it, I think it's more valuable to push through it and get started, and then you feel better for the most part.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like I have found myself with, time is a weird thing to ask about because while technically it seems like there is more of it, there is not there's still mental cycles being taken up by the things that used to exist in in that time that is no longer occupied.
Right.
So I'm lucky enough that my some of my one of my clients scaled back some time due to COVID, but like with Dog Spawn being my biggest project and that still going full steam ahead, I didn't lose. It's not like I lost income. There was still work to do and be done. I have worked remotely anyways. I always work from home. So like tangibly, there's not a big change in my circumstance or my schedule or anything. But just the overbearing everything, it feels like, yeah, technically, there is more. I'm at home more, or I have no like distraction, no outside distraction to focus my home. It still feels like, I'm doing a lot more just kind of like sitting and watching TV or laying on the couch, trying to de-stress from the state of everything. So yeah, time is a weird way to phrase it, or to a weird thing to focus on. But like in terms of productivity, Dogs Bond has been really great in just keeping a regiment or something to focus on. As soon as like production on the art ended, it was like, oh, this is what everyone else is dealing with. I'm completely untethered, and there's nothing
Welcome.
to do. Yeah, it was like that. I'm trying to come up with some more things to sort of like regiment my time. I did Dogist shortly after we wrapped the art production on Dog Spawn during the month of August, and having one thing to do per day of like, okay, no matter what, I have to pick up the pen and just make something. It sort of helped track the days a little better. But it's also, I think, important not to. I didn't want to begrudge needing to take some time off. I did manage to make it through the Dogist, doing something every day, but I also felt like I need to maintain flexibility or else I'm gonna go crazy. Like there's enough pressure to just be cool during everything. I don't want to put more pressure on myself. Like I value having something to keep you regimented, but also the flexibility to give myself a break because,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about having that passion project and saying like, well, you're not, all the things that you're not doing free you up to do this passion project. I think something that I learned, because I'm not as creative artistically, graphic design, like my emphasis was really around like game design and playtesting. It's like, well, you still can't, like I can't go to a board game night at a game shop and say, hey, do you want to try my game? Because those game shops are closed. Or, want to hang out with my core group of like 6, 8 play testers. We can't because we can't. But I think it's also too, it was very important, our team, we tried to build in certain like, hey, we're going to take breaks. We're going to take 2, 3, 4 days off, as much as we can, because we're in that marathon. We were in that marathon. But also too, like, hats off to people who are able to stay focused, stay committed. I think it's a mental state to find that creative space to actually get into that flow state for some of the creativity stuff. Because coming from the corporate job, I mean, Gina, you deal with this too, right? You have like the job, and then there's your fun stuff. It's like it's not just like, okay, and I'm gonna switch my brain into this new zone or this new mode. So I think it's really important too that we don't necessarily have to measure ourselves by how productive were we during these very stressful times, right? It's just as important to get rest, good sleep, all those things. So yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I think sometimes people forget that, taking a nap and taking a rest day, it's not being lazy. It's actually very healthy. Your body needs time to
Mm-hmm.
reset. Your mind needs time to reset. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I think definitely having a project or even a hobby, it's very important, with so much going
Mm-hmm.
on and literally the world being on fire. Um, it's important. Um,
I'm in California. I feel that.
oh yeah.
I feel that.
We just had a wildfire too, kind of close to university on Oahu. So, uh, yeah, it's spreading.
Hope everyone's safe. Stay safe.
Yeah, so far, knock on wood, so far so good. But keep your fires to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right. Sorry, it jumped
I
state
know.
lines. I don't know exactly how it worked, but
No, no. Anyway, so um, Keku did have a good point in chat. It seems like because of the pandemic, everyone's kind of holed up. It seems like there's been an increase in content that, it's people not just pursuing hobbies, but for content creators now, like they're getting so creative and just making things in their own home. Um, then you see people collaborating in different countries, in different states, and it's amazing. Have you guys either at work or in Dogs Bond, have you found it actually easier or harder to collaborate and work with others and create content and buzz around the board game?
yeah, I think that it's pretty cool that a lot of folks have been reaching out, and also to a lot more receptive to the blind email, right? To the cold email. For us, we were able to last week present at the Game Developers of Color Expo, which is normally hosted in New York City, and then this weekend we're here at Kawaii Kon. So this is the first like time I can say yes, Dogs Bond has gone coast to coast, and like mean it, right? Like we did it, which is really cool because there are these types of virtual conferences and panels that we can participate in, as well as get featured on Kawaii Kon's website. Thanks again, high fives. Or participate in your artist alley and just kind of still have access and still get that connect without necessarily the expense of travel, right? But we can still reach this wonderful audience. I mean, I definitely would love, I mean, granted, given the choice of doing it virtually or going to Hawaii, I think myself and my team would like to go to Hawaii. Just saying, for Kawaii Kon 2021. But yeah, it's been and I think that also too, people are a lot more open to how we can collaborate. I heard several of our rescue partners have actually said, hey, who are you partnering with? And they've gotten connected now. And whereas before it was like a rescue group would be like, oh no, we deal with our stuff, we're local, we don't deal with them, like none of that. Now they're actually networking in a much more collaborative way versus like before where they're just like, well, you do your thing, we'll do ours. Like, so I think there's a little bit more camaraderie just kind of throughout. That's how I feel.
Awesome. Sarah and Kiki, I don't know, do you have more that you want to add or other thoughts too on collaborating?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think, to Alex's point, noticing the camaraderie of content creators and artists during this stressful time. Like something that I noticed a lot of artists doing was putting out like free coloring pages, for instance. Like, hey, I know you guys are all bored and stuck at home, and I can make this thing, and everyone can enjoy it in like an interactive way. So I really liked that we even made dog spawn coloring pages for rescues and other people to use, and people seemed pretty into it. So I thought that was just like a cool thing that we
Nice.
could contribute. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we've had I think this happened to a lot of people, but at the start of the pandemic when like everybody was trying to figure out Zoom for the first time, I had a lot more meetings and video calls with extended family that I rarely see in ordinary circumstances, that we spent, like an hour and a half just hanging out virtually because, they had to learn it. And so there is a little bit of that of like there's virtual playtesting groups, for example. I've joined a few Discord servers for playtesting and development of board games. Just like working on Dogs Bond makes me, I am super nosy and get my nose stuck in everything. So I'm just like, well, I wonder what game devs are doing. And one of the biggest, most successful ones started because of the pandemic, actually, just a few months ago. And it was like everyone who lost their in-person, game testing and game development pods had to find somewhere else to do it. And because of that, it's now not just a bunch of disparate groups. It is this big international, like hundreds of folks come together twice a week. Everybody tests their games, gets feedback. It's really amazing to see those connections getting made.
Mhm.
On the flip side of that, though, I know that when we were trying to get our prototypes made of Dogs Bond, there was some delay on, just some folks just stopped the presses entirely. Some folks
Oh
would take
man.
weeks to get back on emails, especially when you're trying to like, the digital stuff is all fine, the talking, the collaborating, the presenting, digital content. But then when you're trying to do things that require other people, or for bigger content creators, for example, like going to a studio or going to shoot on location or anything like that, like as soon as you start to have to go into the real world, stuff starts to gears get ground to a halt a little bit. So it's been a struggle, I think, kind of balancing like, we're ready to go with our prototype, like all of our stuff is in a row. Unfortunately, the people who have to make the physical thing are, having to deal with the fact that they, can't have as many people in the office or can't be open as long or have to social distance,
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Definitely. It's a weird world right now. It's I mean, especially in a culture like in Hawaii where you see somebody and your first reaction is to hug them, just in general, like I see a friend I haven't seen in a long time and you just want to go and hug them and you really can't. Like it's that initial of like, just kidding.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a lot of that. So, um definitely getting creative with your collaborations, and I love that you guys brought together so many rescues, and um it's huge. I think not even like just within your own networks being able to network, but bringing other networks who might not have necessarily thought to work together before, but
Mhm.
bringing them together as well, like that's an awesome thing. Uh,
Mhm.
so is
Yeah, and it's I'm really grateful that folks are more receptive to it, and especially I hope that's one thing that sticks with us after the pandemic is over is that more people are more tech literate and more open to
Mhm.
the international, no borders internet that we have.
mhm,
That's a good point. I
definite.
like that.
I think yeah, everyone's kind of becoming their own IT department, kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it kind of sounds like everyone has uh like project ADD, like they like to have like you have so many ideas and so many things that you want to work on. How do you choose? How did um I feel like the whole board game idea has been on Alex's plate for a while, but how did you guys choose out of all of the projects that had going on and all the balloons that you've been grabbing out of the air? Like how did you choose? And maybe we can go backwards this time and start with Sarah.
Yeah. Well, I'm s- I am the kind of person who likes to like Alex will know and Kiki will know that I batch all of my work. Like I like to just take as many line up as many tasks as possible and just one two like down the line get them done. um and so for dog spawn, obviously, like it was just I love dogs and like the world's biggest dog lover, and I love to paint, and the project was just so much fun. It was like a no-brainer to choose it. But when it comes to my personal stuff, choosing to do Dogist was like the perfect amount of like it's just a list of dogs, one two, like just go down the line and draw each one every day, like head empty, don't have to think about much, just have to draw a thing. And that was like that it was the perfect mix of like you get to do something new every day, come up with a new piece of content or interact with folks. I focused on posting them all on Twitter because my Twitter was like kind of dead beforehand. And it was like it served a bunch of purposes and felt, it was easy, just perfect made. um but I'm sorry, my brain is not working. I had a thought and now it's gone. I'm sure that if we go reverse and Kiki starts talking, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's what it was, and go ahead and interrupt you.
Yeah, we broke the order.
Sorry.
The order has fallen.
I
Right.
broke it. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. It's your panel. You do what you want.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay. So Kiki, I guess you're next.
Oh, I'm next? Okay. This is really backwards now because I was waiting for Alex to go.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, okay. So let's see. Technically speaking, I technically chose to work on Dogs Bond as a passion project because I was working full time when I accepted the position. But Sarah came to me talking about a project that she was working on, and she was explaining that they needed help with graphic design, and then she was asking me like advice on what to design, and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I could do that. You guys just want me to do it? Like, like if they're looking for a graphic designer, I can help you. Because I think I just like, for me, I find a ton of motivation in doing something that's going to help somebody out. And one, the project sounded super cool. And two, being able to use my skill set to further someone else's passion project is what I feel like design is all about for me. So that was cool. As far as like personal projects go, I think lately I've been really into redoing old work that I've done. I don't know why. But looking back at stuff that I drew when I was like 14, and it's real bad. And I'm like, this is bad. And it's awful. And redrawing that with the skills I have now just makes me feel like, look, there is progress being made. Like I have improved despite everything that's bringing me down around me, you know what I mean? And just being able to see like, hey, even when I was 16 and I couldn't bring this idea exactly to where I wanted it in my head, now I can. And I think that's pretty cool.
I can guarantee
That's really cool.
You're 14. Oh no, I'm just gonna I'm gonna say I can guarantee that your 14-year-old drawings are way better than what I can do now.
No,
Have
it's not.
Challenge
You
accepted.
want me to show
Okay,
you?
now you're in an art challenge,
Oh
Gina.
no!
There we go.
Oh
I have
no!
the
There we
receipts.
go.
The receipts
Right.
are here.
Well, I think like that's such a like great way to put it of like, COVID can feel like Groundhog Day, quarantines are just you lose without something to focus on and something to measure the days. You lose all sense of when and where and who you are. And so like
Mhm.
Kiki, for you redrawing old stuff, like it's fun, it's just fun
It
to
is,
like
yeah.
go and re-examine the headspace of where you were as like a 14-year-old artist, which like, we knew each other back then, and just the raw, unbridled creativity and ambition of being a teenager on Neopets who didn't know any better
Yeah.
is like that's a fun
He's not
headspace to live
joking.
in. But also,
That's what happened.
yeah, yeah. But also like to do something that inherently measures progress that you've made and like where you are now in terms of the broader scheme of things is like really cool. I should redraw some of my old stuff. I don't know that I would
Do it.
enjoy looking at them as much, but
No, that's the painful part. But see, it's like small victories every day, because you're like, I am better than this now. I've made progress, even though time feels
Exactly.
meaningless to me now. This is like opening a time capsule and being able to step forward. So
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's great.
Exactly. We do that with old photos too. Like I do photography, it's just my own passion project that's just on the side. But when you go back to some of the first photos that you've taken like 8 or 9 years ago, I'm like, what was I focusing on? Where was I looking? Like it's kind of a reassurance that, at least you've got to marginally better in like the last decade. So I can understand that feeling. And I think especially, yeah, in quarantines, yeah, it's very important. Um okay, Alex, let's hear it.
So it's interesting. So the reason why I started on the path of creating Dog Spawned was because in my day-to-day work, you know, I add a lot of value, and I, can lead projects on time and on track and this sort of thing. But it's all in the software space or the corporate space. So I didn't have anything quite as tangible as what all of you are talking about: a photo, a design, a portrait, right? A sketch that you can kind of say, oh, I've advanced, right? All my stuff is, PowerPoint presentations, spreadsheets. Like, am I better at it? Am I faster at it? Absolutely. But it's not something that I want to like look back on fondly. So for me, like really deciding to pick up Dog Spawned as the passion project I was going to focus on was a couple things. It was probably the closest thing that I had to like actually ready to go out the door, where my development cycles were fairly well done, right? Where like I'd gotten the game design figured out, the interactions, the kind of tension that I wanted in the game, and the strategies. And the thing that was not landing with people when I did playtests was art, graphic design. It was confusing. It didn't feel fun. It didn't feel like it drew you into the game until I got to work with wonderful art team, right? And so knowing that that was going to be my limitation, I decided to go to the wilds of the internet, and I
Uh-oh.
posted the job and I said, hey, please help me, right? Like, please help me find an illustrator, find a graphic designer. I understand sometimes they're one and the same person, sometimes they're two separate people or a team. Like, I want to make this project, so please help me. So it was like I had to advance, and I knew that I couldn't take it any farther. I had to collaborate, right? And so picking that up, and then testing it I tested the game with Sarah. Sarah then learned the game in a week, and then she had to teach it to others. And then she taught it to Kiki and played with Kiki. I mean, like, it was just cool to see that this game that I had created didn't fall apart in the hands of, in my hands when I tested with playtesters or even strangers. And then when I actually had, when I asked other people to take it on and really say, do you think that does this have legs? Get it? Dogs, legs? Okay, you have to like and follow the thing. So that was a lot of it. Wanting to contribute something tangible, wanting to create an experience that you wouldn't necessarily be able to download, was the whole reason why I did it, because I wanted to, I had stuff in my brain and I wanted to contribute it into reality, into the world. And that's how I chose it.
And I think
Good
with
reason.
any big, definitely a good reason, um, but with any big undertaking, like making a board game, it's really knowing your strengths and where you need to reach out to other people for other things.
Mhm.
I think I've played Pictionary with you before, Alex. It was a smart move to reach out and look for an illustrator.
The shade.
Follow our social media accounts and you'll get to see sometimes. I'll show you what my art's like. And I've even taken like Sarah's illustrations, which are beautiful in the game, like available now kind of thing. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, I have this as a reference. I'm gonna draw it. Okay, I drew it.
No.
It looks different. There are differences in, I would say, technique. Leave it.
Different medium.
Uh,
You're not painting in Photoshop. You're just using a different
That's right.
medium.
Yeah.
differences in technique and anatomy and
Yes.
function.
Mhm.
It's just stylistic choices.
Species
It's
sometimes.
fine.
That's true.
Exactly.
I have thought for April Fools, we could do, we could run a Kickstarter that says, okay, now you can, like, Alex will run and do all the art and the layout like as best he can, and no one will back it.
I don't even know if Kickstarter would let that happen.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, no, inappropriate.
Blocked reported.
Oh no. So you guys do have a nice compliment from Dino Sharkey. I meant to acknowledge that earlier. He calls you awesome people. And I agree. You guys are bringing the world together
you.
in a wonderful way. So I agree. Definitely awesome people. And Alexis also agrees with you, Sarah. She likes to cross things off her list. I think we all do. It is very
Mhm.
very satisfying. Even like small things like that, like seeing your progress throughout the day, like, hey, I took out the trash, cross that out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Your day is
Mhm.
already so much better, right?
That's right.
Yeah. To-do lists are like my favorite thing. I sometimes make the day's to-do list as the first item on my day like schedule.
There you
So I
go.
get to cross off making the to-do list. Yeah, like that doing we're asking about how to choose like which project to do. And like I mentioned, Dogist as being like it's just a list of things to go down and cross out. That like feels very much it's something that I do to help manage my time, which is like time blocking. I will go through like on sometimes on a weekly basis, sometimes just for the day, and like, okay, this hour I'm going to do such and such thing, and then like highlight and I have an hourly planner, block out time. And so like that project was just a bigger, a month-long version of, okay, so this day is this day is this, and then I get to go and check off the boxes and make my little spreadsheet. It's just like feels like how like with polar bears in the zoo they call it enrichment, where they give it like a toy that has food stuck in it and you have to just like dig at it. It's enrichment. That's what Dogist felt like to me. Like, I'm trapped in my house, I need to do something to keep my lizard brain enriched, so I'm gonna make a big list and just give myself boxes to check off every day.
I love Kiki's
That's
reaction where
so
she's just
funny.
like, this is not what I do.
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
because no, I'm like the exact opposite. Like we've done like physical conventions together where we have the table and the artist alley and all that kind of stuff. And this girl is out here with her Pokemon spreadsheets and the color coding and all this other stuff, and I'm like, how do you live this way? Like,
I can't live without. You try managing 800 different stock levels or whatever. Yeah, no, he's very much allowed to just continue to do this as I open my mouth. Because we have done many conventions together. You in a weird way, like I keep my brain very rigidly organized, but also whenever we have to do the display, like hang up the prints and stuff, Kiki's the one that's gonna put them on a grid. Like
yes.
I'll start putting them up, and she'll you're not like telling me outright that I'm ruining it, but also like being available to help. And I'm like, could you like do the straight into the yeah. Like, and that's just like Kiki's job while we're setting up, is to make sure that everything is like perfect.
I think that's an interesting point, though, is that you keep your brain very organized rigidly, and that helps you. And you like making lists and stuff, and that helps you stay grounded during these times. I don't do any of that. I can stay visually organized, like I meticulously hung all of these very straight for hours. But mentally, I guess I just like to stay a little more spontaneous. I don't know. But it's something that I actually wasn't able to do before these pandemic times. Like I was on a very regimented schedule, and now I can kind of just go with the flow. So taking my wins as they come, I guess.
Yeah,
Exactly. Take your wins when you can. So
you
what
got to.
right, exactly. Um so when I'm thinking back to when Alex mentioned that, he put a post out there looking for graphic artists, illustrators. What are some resources that you guys use, and like, what are some groups that you rely on to help you with outreach or support, for your different areas? Because besides Dogs Bond, I'm sure you have other passions and hobbies that you pursue. So what are some of the places that, if there are other people who are watching today, that maybe they share the same interests, and maybe they're looking for a group to lean on? Maybe what are some suggestions that you might have for those who are looking for others, like other like minds, to
since
lean on?
mine's the easiest. Right now, most game designers and um, most game designers looking for illustrators, looking for graphic designers, they are on Facebook, and they're in Facebook groups, primarily. And just look up board game design. There's a couple out there. I just joined, Meeple Syrup and a couple of others. They are very design centric. So you're going to see a lot about game mechanics. You're going to see a lot about balancing. You're going to see a lot about, hey, like I was thinking about this theme for a game. Like as an example, zombies, right? We saw zombie games everywhere for a bunch of years, right? And now we're seeing like none. But now everything is about like more like birds and like nature. So it's kind of interesting. Like you'll kind of talk about trends, but they do have on occasion people say like I'm looking for an illustrator, I'm looking for a graphic designer, and usually they're looking for another designer to recommend. But I've seen illustrators and artists and graphic designers put their hand up and just say I do this, let me help you, open to work, right? So Facebook groups, pretty handy dandy resource.
Are we gonna go in reverse order again, or can I just kick
Jump
the
in.
door down?
Yeah, do it.
Right over you.
Do it.
Go for it.
So I've got a few different places, few different ways to find like other people, other projects to hop on. Just like this is more like professional artist like lead generation, and that is to just start at the source of like this is the first board game that I've worked on, but I love it, and I want to like when we Alex was nice enough to come down in December last year, and we got to go to game shops and like test in person and stuff. And at the game shops, just like pulling all the boxes off the shelves and checking out the art, that is a great source of finding like find a box that looks amazing and beautiful, something that like not too far off what my work is or what I want it to be, and then flip it over and see who did it. Who's the artist on this? Check out their website and then go see like who are they working for, what projects are they working on, is there any room for me maybe? Are they doing something? Is there something coming soon? And then who has work like them that has maybe or openings or studios or art directors and stuff like that. And you start with the passion project or the passion that you have for the thing, which is to say beautiful art and fun games. Find a product like that and then kind of, branch out into who has a niche, and to varying degrees of success. For a lot of like smaller studios or developers just getting started, like they probably don't have a website or a big social presence, so for that I've started going to Discord groups for playtesting. I mentioned I think it's just referred to as virtual playtesting, a server on Discord. I'm sure I can get the link somehow, but they just started for quarantine, and they're already huge. They've got hundreds of members and so many people who are just workshopping their games and networking with other people and just there to, it's not, I'm not a developer. I love talking about it, but I'm not, I don't think my brain works that way. But it also is just like, it doesn't have to be with artists. It's people who are creating a thing and are super passionate about it and are there to just like get down to business. Like, okay, if there's something wrong with my game, let's fix it. The problem solving is really forward. And then on top of that, there are just general, like, there's so many niche Discord servers for art. There's the one that I found, Dog Spawned through the job listing, is called Gestalt. It is it's for like environments and backgrounds. It's run by an artist named Amber Blade Jones, who is amazing. And it's just a bunch of artists where we, hang out and talk shop and get critiques and provide resources and share streams and hang out. And there's one thread that specifically posts job listings, and that's where I found the fateful tweet that contained a video with Alex talking to camera, like, "Hi, can you draw my thing for me, please?" Yeah, it's
that video is still available. So if you want to see how desperately I needed the help, it's there. Come join us. Like,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but it's just and another thing is like I will find other side hobbies like Dungeons and Dragons groups. I'm now in 2 campaigns where I've met other folks who like I knew Kiki and Jeffrey, 2 of the players that are in there, but I didn't know so well Tyler, our DM now, and just like trying to, in quarantines anyway, just go around the internet, find like-minded people, find like-minded work, and just snoop a little bit, do a little bit of stalking of like, hey, are you in a Discord server? Like, what community do you hang out in? And like folks are there.
They're out there.
They're out there.
They're out there.
Exactly. Key, I don't know, did you want to add anything for artists out there?
No, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. I think I mostly interact with other artists on social media. And I know Sarah sent me a couple of like Twitter links of people looking for jobs. So that's a pretty common thing these days, especially in quarantine times. So hang out on social media, I guess. That's pretty much all I have.
I think it's also too important that you ask others to keep an eye out on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
The internet is a enormous place, and one person can only handle so many social media channels or handles or day or whatever. I didn't post to the fateful Discord post that Sarah found my project on. That was through someone who had heard about me from someone whom I had spoken to at San Jose Comic Con like that year, right? Where I had actually gone and physically introduced myself to every single artist in Artist Alley, pitched them my concept, and I said, if you're interested, let's talk. And a lot of people said, I'm really interested, I don't have the time. I'm really interested, I don't have the skill for dogs. And they were like, but I'll keep my eye out for you and I'll post it to other places. And I was like, thank you. So by talking to and it took me all 3 days, but I talked to every single artist in Artist Alley, so it's like 150, right? But at least I knew, I was putting out all the lines in the water that I could, and somehow, some way, it all kind of lined up, right? Where my preparation for the conversation and Sarah's preparation with like her art and her portfolio met that same opportunity, and that really drove us both to succeed, right? So yeah, it was really awesome.
Well, just I think I used this term with you before, Alex, and you were like, what is that? The coconut wireless in Hawaii. It's it's how you learn about a lot of things here. It's just by word of mouth, right? Like somebody tells the next person, tells the next person, tells the next person. Social media has made it a lot easier. Um, so it's I guess it's still technically the coconut wireless because it's the internet. But
The coconut Wi-Fi.
yeah, oh, I like that coconut Wi-Fi. But any tips or suggestions then for people who are trying to connect with each other on social media? Maybe some things to not do or to do, look out for, that sort of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Discord is getting a little roboty for me.
It
Can
is
you hear me?
body, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
I-
Oh
no.
no.
Uh-oh.
Is it on my end?
No.
I can hear you fine, Sarah.
Okay.
I think it's good now.
Okay.
I think we're
yeah,
back.
cool.
Okay.
There we go.
Discord had to just butt in there for a second. Yeah. So at least for me anyway, I find that the secret to social media is so simple, or at least to connecting and meeting folks, is to like be generous with your time, with compliments, with feedback, with sharing other
Mhm.
stuff. A lot of times, like you see it in all sorts of places, in art critique groups and playtesting groups. Everybody wants something. I want to get my work critiqued or shared, or I want my more followers or whatever. But like the more that you are willing to not ask for anything before you just give something to someone, be that like helping them out with a question that they have, or sharing a helpful resource, or sharing their work, or just giving a compliment, it you will get that back in spades. Of course, like that I hope that doesn't sound like I'm just like, oh well, if you want followers you just got to follow other people first, like that's not what I mean. If you are genuinely like it, just being nice and generous, then people like really value that, and you start to make friends with other people who can reciprocate. One thing not to do would be to again, just ask for everything, like, hey, follow me, no link, no nothing, it's not and sharing other people's work is saying, hey, you should follow this person because I know that you like this style of artwork, is something. But if it's just like you're not paying attention to someone else, you're not at all focused, and from like a professional like artist side, like if you're applying to every single job no matter what it is and your work isn't a match, then like clearly you're not thinking of meeting the client's needs, you're not thinking of them, you're thinking of just like, hey, I want this gig, I want the money, and people can smell that a mile away. Even on the internet, you can still, I guess especially on the internet, you can tell when people are not really like trying to make a connection.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because I'm on the game design side, which is very creative, but also too I'm trying to manage like the production and the fulfillment and like contracts for this game to be made. Fortunately for us, we were successfully funded earlier this month, and we are going to the presses. Right, we will be printing, which is awesome. I think one of the things that has been really good is also to asking meaningful questions and respecting people's time when they, kind of to what Sarah's point is like being generous, but also sending the elevator back down. Right? There are many people who have done the Kickstarter route, self-publishing route, who have done it before me. And so if I can get 10 seconds of their time, it's like you also too need to be very clear about your question. It's like, hey, do you want to hang out sometime and talk? It's like, about what? Like, what are, let's really, you kind of have to bound that scope as far as like, what is it that you need me to do or are asking me, right? Be clear with the request. If it's critique, if it is, playtest time, right? And two, be willing to, get some no's or not right now, and follow up and say, hey, I still think that you'd be very valuable to hear from, or to interact with. And here's what I can, if there's something I can help you with, just again, same thing, be generous.
That's a good tip.
Mm-hmm. I think too that but also too, and this is for any designers or folks who are looking to hire an art team, which I was very fortunate that I had the capacity to do. Right, no, not ignorant of that. That it was a very fortunate place that I had worked on the game for 3 years, but also too meant that I budgeted some dollars for 3 years to make sure that this thing had the ability to get through. Don't ask artists to do stuff for free, and you're just not going to get great quality energy into it. It's not going to that sort of thing. And there's a balance. There's a really careful balance there. If you're serious, ask, check out their portfolio, have a conversation. That's pretty easy. Then I think I was very, very cautious, Sarah, when I asked for a test illustration, because I was like, I feel bad about this, but also to committing, get a test illustration and commit, I'm not going to use this without your permission, right? Like that from my side, from the business development, side, just being very upfront and transparent, I think will get you farther than just needling people and trying to get as good as you can get without giving anything back. So I think it's also to, having that clarity of purpose and the transparency too.
Yeah,
Huge.
I think both artists and clients have this perception of one another as flaky, and because artist and client is such a broad category, and a lot of times it's absolutely earned. I've definitely had clients that just they query you and they give you all the scope of work and everything's great, and then there are two things that make them vanish into thin air. 2 words. One of that is, or I guess dollar amount of how much I'm going to charge for this. Poof, they're gone like magic. Or am I going to write the contract, or are you? Once again, they vanish into thin air. And that's not every client, of course. That's not every, there's no way you could paint with that broad a brush. But for as pervasive as that is from artists to think that clients will just ghost you, artists do the same thing to the clients. It is kind of the Wild West out there. And so if you can be a person who is accountable and giving people the benefit of the doubt, or just generous, doing a test illustration. I know a lot of artists just simply don't do work on spec, even with the assurance that it's not going to be used. Some artists just don't have the time or the energy, or don't query people that do test illustrations first. And for me, I'm lucky enough to be in a place where I can just kind of consider it the cost of doing business. But I'm also very careful with the people that I will do test illustrations for or art tests for, because you can just get ripped off. But in this instance, in the case of the test that I did for Alex, it was a very well thought out prompt. There was a lot of stuff. I could tell that this was not just I'm kind of on the fence and I maybe want to see what some art might look like to see if maybe I should budget. It was all very, he was very accountable and very responsive and had everything all ducks in a row. So I'm like, okay, this is a serious thing. I can absorb the time lost if it turns out not to work out, which is, that's totally fair. You can do a test illustration and turn it down. But just the fact that he was willing to respond to me and ask about rates and ask about all that stuff up front and not shy away from that conversation was you already are head and shoulders above other clients from my perspective. And I think as an artist, Alex, you can confirm or deny, the same thing, just like responding to your emails and also like just answering questions straight up, not being afraid to not talk about your rates and stuff already. I don't know if you had any artists that just didn't want to talk about any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. We can't paint it all with a broad brush. My experience, though, was I tried to find an artist through my own social network. Like, hey, I need a friend of a friend who is an illustrator, who's an artist, and tried to go that route. And actually, it delayed Dogs Bond by a full year. Like, I'm just going to say it straight out. Like, I chased the wrong artists. I, was trying to get people on, phone calls or like, hey, here's a scope of work. Can you get back to me? Like, hey, hate to be pushy, but there's, effort, there's energy. Like, if you can't do it, just tell me. And so I'll move on, right? Like, there's no sense in, kind of having it hang there. And of course, for me, it was like, I was still doing some play testing and prototyping and some other stuff. So it wasn't like I needed it that right moment, but I definitely know that I, started late. And, fortunately, working with Sarah and Kiki, I think one of the first things I had to say was, okay, I am a year behind in the timelines as far as I'm concerned. So if I'm pushy, it's because I'm mad at myself, But yeah, it was, I think that being a client for artists too, it's like, you have to build those, inroads of trust and give better than you get, right? Just try to, there's a human on the other side of this. And if you're lucky enough to work with really talented illustrators and graphic designers, you also too then become great friends, and you now have a project that you're like gonna work with and work on for, conceivably the next 3 to 5 years, right? And it's not just a one and done. You can kind of count, who you can count on. I think that's really, really important.
So we're getting to our last 3 minutes here before we hit the top of the hour. So maybe we can do some last thoughts, or maybe next big thing that you're looking forward to do. And I kind of want to start with Kiki, give her a chance to get some thoughts in here. So maybe what you have coming down the pipeline for you.
Oh no. Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea.
You can choose anything.
But I think
if you could choose anything, yeah.
I don't know.
Twitch streaming.
Yeah.
Twitch streaming. More cool Dogs Bond panels.
Yeah. All of that stuff.
MLG, Sonic, gaming.
Absolutely. Every day. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like things are kind of up in the air for me at the moment, but I don't exactly hate it. So kind of just gonna see what happens. I'm preparing as best as I can, trying to line things up, but that's where I'm at. So that's gonna make everything that everybody says after me sound amazing. So go ahead.
Thank you so much. You've done a great service. Yeah. No, I mean that's totally valid. Like I think, the panel is like passion projects in a pandemic, which so far we've emphasized passion project, and at this point perhaps emphasizing the in a pandemic thing is like you kind of have to be able to remain agile at the moment. I don't really know what's coming up next. I've, queried some other like board game designers. I want to do more expansions and more stuff with Dogs Bond. There's things that I want to do. But you can't really commit to anything with the state of the world being what it is. So who knows? I'm trying to embrace the we'll call it agility that I have, instead of what you might call it, which is being completely untethered or undecided or a tumbleweed, or in trying not to drown in the middle of a raging river with no buoys.
All of the above.
We'll say I've got agility.